Guys, just finished watching Gifted, Season 2, Episode 6, Imprinted. What an interesting episode that this was. So, again, I'm doing these videos, still don't have my laptop, so I'm just using my brother's laptop. My laptop's in the shop, but get back to the regular style videos whenever I get it back, hopefully by next weekend. But this episode of Gifted, Season 2, Episode 6, Imprinted, Imprint, it really was an interesting episode. It was really cool to see as to where things kind of go. We didn't get any kind of moving on of the story too much, but things did happen and stuff. Like the overall storyline. I mean, there's some teases and stuff as to where things are going. I guess you can't say that it didn't move on, because we do see that Reva is talking to someone else, someone with the initials QM or an organization Q.M. type thing. I tried looking that up, Googling it and stuff. I couldn't really figure out as to where that's from, who is it from in the comic books or anything like that, so nothing really could pop up there. They maybe I'll find a video later on for the next video as to who that could be. Who knows? It's going to be cool to see that. So here's the list here. We start off the episode. We see that the Frost sisters, 8 years ago, they had to rip out information from a mutant and stuff to find out where the rest of his family was there, and they had to do that and at the age of like 13 and stuff. So that was kind of cool, really seeing that. We see Caitlin and Lorna. They are there at. They end up going to. They end up going to look for the psychologist who was working at the mutant hospital that was attacked when where the Inner Circle stole Rebecca from in the last episode or the episode before that. And we see that they go there. They go to find her. Reeve stays behind so he can train and work on his powers and stuff. So that was kind of cool, dealing with him and his powers throughout this episode. We see that Reva won't tell Polaris the mission. She threatens to kind of leave and stuff. But later on, she ends up giving the okay to the Frost sisters to kind of let her in a little bit on this specific mission. So they're only giving her. She's realizing that they're holding back information, but she only wants to know what's going on in this mission. Now I think it would make more sense to me that she would want to know the entirety of the mission. What is the ultimate end goal? I mean, maybe she thinks it's not the same, type thing. I think it would be interesting to see. So she's used to being, like the Frost sister said, used to being kind of one of the main members in charge and stuff. Now she's not. So I think that's kind of interesting, dealing with that. We see that Andy and Lauren have like a dream where they're in the Inner Circle's training room. Lauren touches kind of the safe that was turned inside out by Rebecca, and Lauren looks like she thinks it's Andy who did it, but later on I guess she finds out that it probably would have been Rebecca, because they do find out Rebecca's powers by the end of this video, which was that kind of interesting, dealing with that, see how they're going to use that information. Andy and Lorna, they're in the training room. She touches the safe, gets like a little bit of a cut, and then in real life she actually has a cut, so that's really going to be cool. And they're kind of talking themselves in there. We only see Lauren's side of the story, though. They both having conversation in the dream, but we only see Lauren kind of wake up with the cut and stuff, and she talk about it when she wakes up, but we don't see Andy kind of talking to Polaris about it, or talking to Reva, or even any of the Frost sisters about it, or even talking to Rebecca about how he's been having these dreams type thing, and what they could mean. I think that would have been an interesting idea, but I guess there's a lot packed into this episode to also further on the storyline of Andy and Rebecca and their relationship as they're kind of dating and stuff. So we see that, so that is cool that they're just getting more and more connected every time they have a dream. I'm assuming it's every time they go to sleep type thing, or there's kind of interested dealing with that. We see Reva is on a call. We don't know who it is. We don't see anything. I was hoping that it could be maybe someone like Magneto, but then we see the QM later on in the texting and stuff. It seems like it could be someone she's maybe dating. Who knows? I think dating could be an interesting idea, but I doubt she'd be wasting her time with dating something like that. Maybe it could be someone else, a brother or something like that, family member. I think it could be interesting to see where things could go with that. Maybe it's a mutant that is a disfigured type thing, or a mutant that kind of not disfigured, but is a poor choice of words, but a mutant like Shatterstar who can't hide, like a Morlock type of thing. Maybe not an actual Morlock, but someone like a Morlock who they cannot walk out in public because they have an obvious physical mutation that's out there. They can't hide their mutation, right? I think that could be someone there. Maybe Reva has a family member, like a little brother or a little sister type thing, dealing with something like that. It could be something interesting to play with. we see the we see that one of the Frost sisters, I think it's Esme, she ends up putting using her powers to put Dawn to sleep and stuff. And I was like, oh boy, just crossing a line there, right? And messing with Dawn's head and stuff. And I think that was interesting, dealing with that. And later on, we get the fallback from that. We see Reed training with John there with Thunderbird, and he tries to he trains with him, can't get his powers to go off. Shatterstar overhears that later on, and he tells him that he tried to end himself, tried to shoot himself in the head, and that's the shatter that's on his head. It was a point blank handgun type thing, and that was really cool. Such a interesting storyline. And then later on we get the end of Shatterstar, so that was kind of cool dealing with that. We see the Frost sister. We find out that back in age 13 is when they first killed the killed person. So when they were taking the information out of the guy's head, they turned on the guards and had them killed. And we also find out later on after that they were actually clones, and they were 5 clones. 2 of them died when they turned on the captive that they had, and the 2 of the clones were killed, and they all kind of felt it since they're all connected, right? So I think that's interesting to deal with that. You can kill one, but it's not going to kill the others, but they're really going to feel it. So I think that's an interesting idea. Maybe if to see how far they're willing to go with that, and I think it's going to be quite interesting to see as to where things go with all that, especially with throughout this episode. We do see I'm not mistaken, it's Esme, the one who got burned by Polaris by Eclipse a few episodes ago, when he came to give Dawn the light from his powers. He burned one of them, and she's kind of having these kind of moral situations, it's just kind of these kind of regrets type thing. It seems like a little bit different of opinions compared to her sisters and stuff, and I kind of like that, to see where that kind of goes for this season. Does whenever Andy and Lauren and Polaris ever leave the inner circle, is Esme going to leave with them? I think that could be an interesting idea to see how things go with that. And they obviously, inner circle couldn't let anything like that happen because she's connected to them. If she leaves and she goes against her sisters and goes to work with the underground, the mutant underground, would she be able to just kind of know what's going on with her sisters just by long distance link type thing? Or is there a certain distance where they got separated and they can't read each other's mind? They can't know what each other is thinking, see what each other are seeing, hear what each other are hearing. Is there kind of a distant limit to all that? And I think that could be an interesting idea to play with. If Esme were ever to turn good, whenever Polaris and Andy at the end of this episode, end of the season, going into another season, having her with the good guys, and having her sisters stay with the inner circle or something, that could be something fun to play with later on, or maybe at the end of this end of this season type thing could be something to play with. We see the Purifiers ends up falling. They end up burning a church, and they find out that the mutant underground find out that no one's been hurt type thing. It was just a ploy to get them to run to the mutant underground, and they could follow them there. So they end up following the church victims to the mutant underground, and so they attack them. And that was really cool dealing with that. It would have been cool to play a little bit longer with that, but we were kind of bouncing between the mutant underground getting attacked and the Frost sisters and stuff. We see Esme, assuming it's Esme, after she showed Polaris the bank that they're trying to attack and stuff, and told her about killing the guards at age 13, and how there used to be 5 clones, now the 2 of them died and stuff. The Frost sisters, the Frost sister at the end, she's humming a song she heard in Dawn's head type thing, and that's when kind of Lorna kind of snaps type thing, realizing that they're in her head type thing. And I think that's an interesting idea to see how that's going to play out. And hopefully she ends up telling, we don't see it in this episode, but she ends up telling Andy to what that is, and hopefully I'd like to see what Andy's opinion is of that, and what is Rebecca's opinion of that. Reva would probably not care that she did that. She just cared that she got caught doing that. But I think it would be something interesting for her, at least. I was Polaris, she definitely needs to tell Andy, just to kind of, so he could be, a little bit on edge, just kind of like, keep that in the back of his mind type thing. So I think that's going to be cool to see, as to kind of, where things go with that, but how that kind of affects everyone's relationship with the inner circle and stuff. Which we only ever see very few people at this point. We only ever see Reva, Polaris, Andy, and Rebecca, and the Frost sisters. It'd be cool to start seeing a lot more people. We've had that round table at the beginning of the season and stuff, but a lot of them got killed off, right? So I'd like to see a lot more, to see how big this thing really is type of thing. Because right now we're only seeing like a handful of people, Whereas you see the Mutant Underground, and there's always like background people who never really get any lines or anything, but we just see them in the background because we know how big it is, right? When the Mutant Underground is attacked, there's like 20, 30 people there. So I think that would be cool to see that with the Inner Circle. How many people do they have involved in their cause type thing? We see Lauren later on. They finally get to the psychologist's office, and she ends up threatening the psychologist to find out information. And they end up finding out her powers, that she can, turn things inside out. And that she turned a couple of people inside out, turned her family inside out. And I think that's going to be cool to see things how, when Andy ever goes back to his parents, goes back to the Inner Circle, goes back to the Mutant Underground type thing, eventually by the end of the season type thing, when that happens, would Rebecca come with him, and that sits there kind of, she trusts him, and what would, the Mutant Underground think of her powers, and, is she playing Andy? I doubt she's playing Andy. I feel like it would have been something that she didn't have any control of. She accidentally, killed her parents, just like, kind of like black, what's his, I can't think of the Inhuman guy there, leader of the Inhumans, and stuff, and to see him where he accidentally just spoke, Black, I can't think of his name, the guy who can't speak and stuff, but to see Black Bolt, see him when he in the Inhumans, he would accidentally just spoke in front of his parents, and it kind of killed him, right? Because he can't control he can't turn it off, right? And I think that was something that would be cool to see. If we get a flashback to her killing her parents, I think it was kind of cool to see that. Again, we see that we get to reveal that Riva is texting someone called QM, or it's either someone or it seemed like an acronym of QM, Q.M. Which if it was someone. If it was just a name, then wouldn't she have just titled it in her context in her phone as just QM, or is it an acronym type thing? I think that'd be cool to see. And it sounds like she's like kind of dating this person, but like I said, it could have been someone. I feel like it could be a family member or something like that she has kind of hidden away because they have a physical mutation and she can't be. It would be too obvious, type thing, to have her around, just kind of keeping him hidden, right? Keeping someone hidden, I think it could be cool to see with that. Again, we see Shatterstar at the end of the episode getting killed by Jace Turner. Then Reed uses his powers on the wall to kind of make it crumble because they have to get out through the secret tunnels. And at the end of the episode, we see that Reed cannot control his powers and stuff, and his powers, he can't turn them on, turn them off. And that was really cool, seeing as how his powers are kind of uncontrolled and stuff. How is he going to be able to turn them off? I think it's really going to be cool to see as to where things go with that. I imagine someone like one of the Frost sisters, could one of them be able to turn off his powers like that, or is his powers a new thing that doesn't get turned off? I think it would be something cool to see as to where things go with that. How would that go if the Frost sisters were to do that? Which I doubt they would. Obviously it would be very difficult to get them to do that, but I think it would be something interesting to see as to would it take the three of them to turn off the powers. How powerful would they have to be? And also I'd like to see with the Frost sisters, how powerful are they? They're clones, not mutants, so are they Jean Grey level power, Phoenix level power, or are they, are they Professor Xavier, Charles Xavier level strength? I think that'd be something interesting to see. We also have Legion out there, and it would be interesting to see if that's kind of in the same thing, but Legion's in its own, definitely in its own universe type thing, or at least it could all just be, could all be connected, but yet all take place inside of Legion's head, so Legion is kind of difficult to kind of cross over with this, but it would be something interesting to see as to, is she more powerful than David Heller? I doubt it, these guys, I feel like they're a little bit more, the three sisters, they might have been all five of them at the beginning. They might have been, if they'd all survived, they probably would have been as powerful as maybe Charles Xavier altogether. But I feel like the three of them now that they lost two are probably not as powerful as Charles Xavier, but still pretty powerful to be able to do stuff. So that would be cool to see as to where things go with that. I mean, we saw that Eclipse was able to kind of kick them out of his head, the three of them out of his head when he was able to kind of burn one of them, right? So that was kind of cool dealing with all that. So all in all, I'm kind of excited to see as to where things go with this. I'm glad we're getting the tease now as to who Rebecca's kind of where Riva is kind of working with and stuff. I wish we'd have got it a little bit earlier because it's episode 6. How many episodes? I think we're supposed to get like 16 episodes for this show this season, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll have to wait and check that out later on. But I think if it's 16 episodes, I think this is the good time to kind of start teasing as to who she's kind of secretly working with, who's behind the shadows, right, for the Inner Circle. But if it's only like 10 episodes, then that's kind of a bit late to do that. But for 16 episodes, I think it could be okay to see kind of where things are going. So all in all, I'm excited to see is kind of how things go for this episode. So let me know what you think, guys, about this episode in the comments below. Season 2, Episode 6, Imprint, Gifted. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.